did you hear? Speak!
Nothing important. That is, I heard a good deal about a ring and a Dark Lord and something about the end of the world.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 events that could have ended the world.
We're trying to tell you that the entire planet is about to be destroyed.
For this list, we'll be looking at historical events that could have had a devastating impact on the world and its inhabitants, but thankfully did not. Which of these stories do you find the most shocking? Let us know in the comments below. Number 10. Chernobyl, 1986. If it wasn't for the quick thinking and incredible heroism of the response team, who knows what could have happened with Chernobyl? In the early morning of April 26, 1986, a reactor at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant exploded and sent fatal amounts of radiation hurling into the atmosphere.
The chain of disaster is now complete.
The USSR and Eastern Europe were hit by dangerous radioactive fallout, and the immediate surrounding area became uninhabitable. Nearby cities were completely evacuated, and a massive effort involving 500,000 people and the equivalent of $68 billion worth of cleanup was immediately launched.
It's time to go. After 90 seconds, I will ring a bell. When you hear it, return immediately. Drop your shovels in the bin and proceed down the hallway for decontamination.
The reactor is currently enclosed within the Chernobyl new safe confinement, and cleaning efforts continue to this day. This was the workplace accident to end all workplace accidents. Number 9. 4581 Asclepius, 1989. Turns out the 80s wanted to kill us all. An asteroid known as 4581 Asclepius was discovered by astronomers Henry Holt and Norman Thomas on March 31st, 1989.
Spinning through the desolate vacuum of space, bigger than an aircraft carrier, and closing at 46,000 miles an hour.
They also discovered that the asteroid had nearly hit us. Just over a week earlier, Asclepius came within just 425,000 miles of Earth.
1989. We escaped this grisly fate by 6 hours.
Unfortunately, detecting approaching asteroids is very difficult, and this one managed to sneak by the late 80s detecting systems. In the words of Holt, on the cosmic scale of things, that was a close call. If Asclepius did manage to slam into Earth, its damage would be the equivalent of a 600 megaton atom bomb. To put that into perspective, the bomb dropped in Hiroshima released just 15 kilotons of energy.
That's one Hiroshima-type blast every second for 50 days.
Number 8. Igniting the atmosphere, 1945. Everyone was desperate to end World War II, resulting in the Manhattan Project and the creation of the atomic bomb.
Now, gotta come down out of the clouds, gentlemen, and get into the business of winning a war.
There were a few problems with this. For one thing, some calculations posited a horrifying reality, that the bomb could quite literally ignite the atmosphere and destroy life on Earth through something called runaway fusion. Retests and further studies proved that this was probably impossible, but the threat nevertheless remained. And the worst part of all, no one but the scientists knew about this world-ending possibility.
Hey, Oppenheimer! Oppenheimer! You ought to stop playing God, because you are not good at it, and the position is taken.
They and the military officials went through with the tests, knowing that no matter how small, there was a possibility that their bomb could destroy the world. Number 7. Solar flare, 2012. The world was supposed to end in 2012.
You sure it's tomorrow?
Afraid so. Right at dawn, the entire planet gone.
Maybe this is what they meant. In July of that year, the sun experienced a massive solar storm. It was the most powerful storm in over a century, and it emitted something called a coronal mass ejection, known as the CME. This is essentially an enormous beam of magnetized plasma.
An average CME travels at about 1 million miles per hour and weighs around 2 trillion tons.
The Sun fired a CME directly into Earth's orbit on July 23, 2012. But Earth had luckily passed that exact area of space just 1 week earlier. If Earth had been hit, we would have experienced a catastrophic blackout and been sent back to the Dark Ages.
If we have a really big one, you can have a very strong aurora, but then it can affect satellites and power grids.
By some estimates, it would have taken years and approximately $2 trillion to fix the damage. Number 6. The Bonilla Comet, 1883. On August 12, 1883, Mexican astronomer Jose Bonilla saw something strange while observing the sun. According to him, hundreds of dark objects began crossing in front of the star, and he managed to take a few photographs. Unfortunately, these mystery objects were hand-waved away by the astronomy community as mere birds.
To understand correctly that after all of the information you've received today, the decision you're making is to sit tight and assess?
But were they?
Those birds are getting awfully close.
In 2011, the National Autonomous University of Mexico theorized that the objects may have been fragments of a comet.
What the hell is that?
They estimate that over 3,000 fragments passed by Earth over 2 days, some of which came within just 400 miles. Astronomer Hector Mantarola theorizes that if these fragments had hit Earth, it would have resulted in an extinction-level event. And they thought it was just geese. Number 5. The Chicxulub Impact, 66 million BCE. This asteroid had the power to destroy the dinosaurs. If we were on Earth back then, it would have easily wiped us out too.
90 minutes after impact, the temperature on the ground in Mongolia peaks at 150 degrees Celsius.
As everyone knows, an asteroid slammed into Earth 66 million years ago and wiped out the dinosaurs. The massive asteroid struck off modern-day Mexico with a force upwards of 900 billion atomic bombs. Yes, 900 billion. The impact changed the very climate of Earth, with its resulting nuclear winter causing 3/4 of all life to go extinct.
The plants, starved of sunlight, would have died. The largest animals ran out of food remarkably quickly. The creatures that scavenged them, eventually, they had nothing to feed on either.
This only proves the tenuous nature of life. At any time, a giant asteroid can destroy us with the force of 900 billion Hiroshimas.
Run!
Number 4. The Windscale Fire, 1957. The Windscale disaster is England's Chernobyl. On October 10, 1957, a fire broke out in England's Windscale facility, releasing large amounts of radioactive fallout into the atmosphere.
There was a high reading, the meter reading went right up to the top, and this was quite alarming, and we came back into the house.
The fire burned for 3 whole days and dispersed large amounts of cancer-causing iodine-131 throughout the United Kingdom. Like Chernobyl, this event was significantly covered up and downplayed by the British government.
But Harold Macmillan told them full disclosure would harm the exchange of nuclear information with America.
It was a political judgment, and after all, who was I to argue with the Prime Minister on a political judgment?
Some things never change. Windscale was considered the worst nuclear disaster in history at the time and directly caused hundreds of cancer deaths.
It was so startling that there are all these people with leukemia that we began to think about the plant.
Luckily, the fire was extinguished before it spread even more harmful radioactivity throughout the atmosphere. Number 3. The Cuban Missile Crisis, 1962. October of 1962 is the closest that the world has ever come to nuclear war. Ballistic missiles were found all over the globe, with America placing some in Turkey and Italy. In retaliation, the Soviet Union pointed missiles at America from Cuba. Both countries anticipated nuclear war, and President Kennedy was forced to create the Executive Committee of the National Security Council.
In that sense, missiles in Cuba add to an already clear and present danger.
They advised Kennedy to invade Cuba and start a war, but he decided on a more diplomatic approach. He quarantined Cuba and demanded that its nuclear missiles be dismantled.
To halt this offensive buildup, a strict quarantine on all offensive military equipment under shipment to Cuba is being initiated.
Following some tense negotiations, America and the Soviet Union reached a deal in which each country would dismantle their missiles.
The Soviet government has ordered the dismantling of weapons in Cuba, as well as their crating and return to the Soviet Union.
By deciding not to invade Cuba, Kennedy basically saved the world. Number 2. Soviet Nuclear False Alarm Incident, 1983. If there's one single person we owe the world to, it's Stanislav Petrov. The famous false alarm incident occurred on September 26, 1983. The early warning system of the Soviet Air Defense Forces was activated, indicating that 5 American missiles were headed towards the Soviet Union.
The siren sounded very loudly, and I just sat there for a few seconds, staring at the screen with the word "launch" displayed in bold red letters.
Petrov suspected a false alarm, but he had a decision to make. Either inform high command and launch a retaliatory attack, or ignore his orders, do nothing, and hope that his instincts were right. The fact we're still here tells us what he did.
And then I made my decision. I would not trust the computer. I picked up the telephone handset, spoke to my superiors, and reported that the alarm was false.
As it turns out, the warning system malfunctioned and erroneously displayed American missiles where there were none. Essentially, nuclear war was prevented by one man with the steely nerves of a god.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications.
Number 1. Comet Hyakutake, 1996. The Great Comet of 1996 was observed the world over, and its bluish-green light could easily be seen with the naked eye. That's because it was incredibly close to Earth. So close that it very nearly wiped us all out.
Sweet Mother of God.
The comet was officially discovered on January 31st and could be seen with the naked eye by March.
It's been seen in these parts for roughly 18,000 years. This week, a speeding, luminous comet promises to light up the northern sky again.
In terms of earthly distances, the comet was nowhere near us, passing by about 9 million miles away. By comparison, the moon is only about 240,000 miles away. But on the cosmic scale, this was practically right next door. In fact, it was one of the closest comets to pass by Earth in over 200 years.
You guys discovered a comet? That's so dope. I have a tattoo of a shooting star on my back.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.